Good morning, everybody. On behalf of LACHEC Organizing Board, we want to give you a warm welcome. My name is Matías Marín, Director for Internationalization at the Universidad Católica de Manizales. And today we're going to have our panel discussion in the role of academics and professional development in the internationalization of the curriculum. Before we start, we would like to remind our participants to please turn off your microphones and to please participate according to the moderators and presenters instructions. Today we have Kelly Torres, who's going to be the moderator for our panel. Kelly, you have the floor.
Well, thank you so much, Matías, and good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here, supporting us in the connection of great knowledge towards the role of the educator in the internationalization of the curriculum. Oh my God, what a difficult word, internationalization, but a lot of knowledge to share. Okay, so this talk that we have prepared for you is everything related to the role of the educator in internationalization of the curriculum and classroom experience. Please let me introduce Sandra Valencia, Foreign Language and Internationalization Professor, Matías Marín, Internationalization Director from Universidad Católica de Manizales, Jennifer Posada, Department of Languages Coordinator, and myself, Kelly Torres, Foreign Language Teacher from Fundación Universitaria del Área Andina. Well, hi, Sandra, how are you doing?
Hello, Kelly, thank you very much for the introduction. Today, well, basically what we want to address is basically how academics and professors can get involved into the different processes of internationalization. So we're going to talk about policies, internationalization at home. We're going to share some of these strategies we have developed in our institutions. And well, finally, we're going to talk about how these professors and academics can get involved into this whole process. However, this is just the tip of the iceberg, because if you go beneath, you're going to see that there are many different aspects that can actually affect how things can work out the best way possible to reach the goals of each institution. So we're going to start with the foreign language policies and how they're linked to the internationalization policy. At the same time, we're going to see how internationalization starts happening through these big, great ideas and some strategies such as multicultural interactive learning, EMI, which is English as a means of instruction, and also functional interactive language teaching. So we're going to also have by the end of this session some ideas on how we can get all our staff involved in the internationalization of the curriculum. So we're going to start with Jennifer. So Jennifer, can you please start sharing your ideas?
Of course. Good morning, everyone. In order to comprehend the role of professors and academics in the internationalization of curriculum, it is important to give some context about how language policies work in higher education. So basically, this is research conducted in 2018, in which the whole purpose of the research was to provide guidelines to create foreign language policies in universities. Why? Basically because universities were blind in order to create those, and the Ministry of Education had said just, okay, a university, in order to, for example, get an institutional accreditation, needs an effective language policy, but how we could get it effective. So basically, we based these guidelines into 5 categories. Those were provided by Johnson, and we developed the whole research in 3 different universities with professors, language professors, with students, and also with language policy managers, basically heads of departments. So the first category is about context, meaning where the policy is going to be implemented. So the role of academics and professors, I'm not going to go deep in the whole aspects that we found, but only in those that are related to academics and professors and how they are directly related to the whole policy in general. So in context, the first one is to create a foreign language atmosphere, to create an ecosystem that fosters language use. And later on, you're going to find out how. The second one is population, the importance of characterizing students before having them developing activities related to language, foreign language. Goals, which is basically what is it that we want through the policy, or what is it that we want to achieve with the policy. And the one that we have here is EMI, the importance of having EMI discipline specific classes taught in foreign language, favoring foreign language learning. However, here in this talk, in this conference, in this lecture, what we want to see is that it's not only for foreign language learning, but also for the ability of becoming global citizens. In these courses, basically is what is the perspective of the university towards the learning of a foreign language. Here, basically, as we are seeing it here in this talk, is as learning a language with the purpose of internationalization. That's like that perspective that we're going to give in this talk. Agents is who, basically, who is participating in the whole process of the language policy. So here we have a teamwork that not only for classes, but also for the appropriation of the foreign language policy. Here in teamwork, we're going to have teachers, not only language teachers, but also content teachers or discipline teachers working together towards a goal. And also the co-construction, meaning that all the collaborators of the university and everybody at the university, the academic community, has to participate in the process of a language policy or a policy in general. And finally, processes, how the foreign language has to be implemented inside the classroom. So that's basically the guidelines, or some aspects of the guidelines of language policy that are related to academics and professors, and that are also related to internationalization.
Thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, as you were saying, all of these foreign language, let's say, policies are kind of the gate door to enter the internationalization and the curriculum of an institution. The curriculum is the life of an institution, so everything that we do or we develop in our institutions has a purpose. It's intended, it's intentional. And that's why the foreign languages can be a door to enter internationalization. It's not strictly the only way. Many people still probably confuse internationalization with teaching in English, but when you have a foreign language, you have an extra resource that you can also operate in your institutions according to the purposes of turning our education and our students into global citizens. At the Universidad Católica de Manizales, for instance, foreign languages were this entrance, were this gateway door for the internationalization policy, but basically we covered 3 main areas, and for each area we have a learning pathway or a set of learning pathways. The first pathway is the global citizen, and many times we have thought about the global citizenship in the interrelation with other people, with this awareness raising about solidarity and respect for others. But we thought, okay, yeah, when we think about global citizenship, we need to raise awareness, but we also need to interact. And at the end, we also want to foster action for collective well-being. A global citizen is not only an individual who understands others, but who also constructs identity in spite of difference, that is working for the well-being of others as well. And that's why in here we have this dimension of global citizenship, that one that is generic, but there are some others that are quite specific. We have also kind of debate in the world today with the SDGs, with the Sustainable Development Goals, but the Sustainable Development Goals can also be applied in local spaces, and we have this general idea and how each discipline contributes, let's say, to these development goals, but also there are certain actions that are context dependent. In here, we basically, with our professors, when we thought about global citizenship, we thought about these generic skills, but we thought about also what it means when we talk about discipline, specific discipline domains. Multiculturalism, so many times as well. So we think, yeah, we start incorporating or integrating this global dimension into the curriculum of all of the students, but it's not only necessary to be aware of others' perspectives, but also to collaborate with others. And that's why we have the global and the multicultural aspect incorporated in there. And finally, we have different pathways from the foreign languages command and the proficiency. Again, it is not the only way. In here, when we have these three areas, when we thought about institutionally, is because we have different learning pathways, and each pathway depends also on the profile of the professor, on the intentions of the curriculum, and also on the characterization of students. And in foreign languages, we have also developed different pathways from reading comprehension skills to foreign language as a medium of instruction. Sandra, can you help us out in the next slide? All of this for the internationalization at home. But then we have, okay, how can we get academics engaged in the internationalization of the curriculum? The very first thing is that it needs to make sense for them. Academics and professors are not the implementers of policies. They are actually the creators of them a long time. And what we do is that we support them. We provide certain conditions for their practice. And that's why there is something that even if there is not an internationalization policy in your institution, you can realize that many of us have, like, we look for integral education or for whole human holistic education. And when we entered the strategic platform, we realized that we had certain keywords: social and cultural transformation. There is a big purpose in there. New citizenship, new humankind, diverse, inclusive, multicultural community, which contributes to a more just, supporting and fraternal society. And then we have an objective, which is to build capacities for a global performance. We got those pieces of words, those keywords in our strategic platform, and we integrate every action that we develop in internationalization into those areas. And that's why in here we're talking about global competencies, global competences, but global competencies. And in here, most of these global skills, these transversal skills, are not really disciplinary. There are many of them are soft skills, the leadership, critical thinking, creative thinking, but all of them are applied in specific domains. Information and media literacy. Nowadays, with the pandemic, we see also that there are certain questions like how we go into virtual education. And it's not only management of tools, digital tools, or these technological tools, but it's also about information and media literacy, to look for information, analyze, evaluate, and to be able to assess and critically, let's say, perform actions based on the information that you have analyzed. And then we have also in the line of the foreign language, we apply content and language integrated learning, and we apply English as a medium of instruction. And the reason why we go in there is because many academics and students, they are not extrinsically, let's say, familiar with the language students can use or how students can perform in a classroom taught in a different language. So even though it's not the role of the professor, we know that that is a stage in order to be aware of, according to the language capabilities of the students in their classrooms, they know how to incorporate different content elements or different learning outcomes depending on the capabilities of the students. But at the end, we want to reach this English as a medium of instruction in which professors don't worry so much about the language, but they actually teach their subject because students have been also passed through the different stages. Again, our intention in our institution, we have different professors who are engaged in these three stages, these three learning pathways, but there are some others who are specifically dealing in only one of those aspects. And it made us to create the Global Academy UCM, which is something that we have developed in order to integrate professors at one stand and students in another stand for develop these capacities for a global performance. And the professors have been the most valuable peers for us in this job. But something that we have talked is not only about information and media literacy, but there are also some elements that we need to be aware of when we use technology in our classrooms. And Kelly is going to tell us a little bit about functional interactive language teaching.
Okay, thank you, Matthias, and thank you, Jennifer. Actually, what you said is really, is true. It's how the university compromises to help not only the students, but also the professors with responsible training in terms of how we can put everything into practice and everything that is in the policy of the university towards the internationalization, the how we can put into practice the fact that we want students to speak a different language, so they have the way and the path to have in that mobility, the international mobility and have other chances in terms of academia. Okay, so now I would love to share how everything that is in the university policy could be put into practice in the classroom experience through the functional and interactive language teaching in virtual scenarios. And I want to tell you this, when everything started in March, I thought, well, I was not prepared to face everything in virtual scenarios. And probably there are people that they are not even prepared of what everything is all about. And that's why if with my criteria, if I can help you probably to have a light of what everything is all about in terms of virtual scenarios, I'll be more than happy to in this space. Here we have time management. Oh my goodness, you cannot believe how this is a treasure, time management. I was at the very beginning very tacky. I mean, I was very confused how I'm going to do this. It's not only to have the opportunity to have the Google Meet space or probably Skype space or Zoom scenarios, but how can you plan or how you can plan the interaction and the functional learning that students they can get from you and you can learn also from the students. Well, so time management and organization is what commits that the real purpose of what you're trying to teach and implement in the classroom really works. And for that, we need new training tools. I would like to interact here on the chat with the people connected in our talk. How many of you had the wise time to dedicate yourself to learn something new in terms of teaching something in virtual scenarios? Some of you probably, if you can help me maybe participating or probably by clicking something that I can have the idea that you're participating with me. Did you have the opportunity to really train yourself in implementing something new in the classroom in virtual scenarios besides having the Zoom opportunity or probably Google Meet opportunity or probably Microsoft Teams opportunity to teach your class? Did you really have the chance to really dedicate yourself to learn something new in terms of new applications to implement in your class? I'm all ears and I'm all eyes to read. Okay, so Matthias says thumbs up, yes. And I'm experimenting that probably here I'm in a classroom that I don't even know if I have students connected or not. But I'm gonna ask one more time. Did you really have the opportunity to train yourself to learn something new now that you have in this COVID-19 time that you probably, oh my goodness, I have to prepare a class and I have to do something and I don't know what to do. How can I interact and how can I prepare functionality with a material that I want to teach within the class? Do we have any answers yet, Matthias and Sandra? Okay, not really. Barbara Pinzon says, it is so necessary in this time. Okay, so at the very first time that I faced that everything changed in terms of virtual scenarios teaching, I said, well, Skype is not gonna be enough, Zoom is not gonna be enough, and probably other applications that I could have probably interaction face-to-face with the students is not gonna work at all. I have to prepare myself in terms of interaction through new trainings application. And for that, I put everything together, time management that is not only prepare classes and prepare probably activities to discuss within the class, but how I can comply with that interaction with the student. And I have another question for you. Are you the type of tutor or are you the type of professor that you're just planning on assignments to keep students busy? Type yes or no in the chat, please. No. Thank you. V Varga 13, thank you. Okay, I think that this is a real truth, a real task for me, that I'm gonna get the interaction with the people here. Okay, so here we have to be very conscious about the fact that we just cannot prepare an assignment just to keep a student busy. We have to ask ourselves why the student is learning what I'm trying to teach him or teach her. What's the purpose of everything in the class? How the student is going to really use what I'm trying to teach. And I have to find a purpose. And the purpose, of course, is not gonna be only with documents, probably filling out forms within a learning platform or something. I need to find ways to use other applications that through the gamification or probably through flipped classroom didactics can help me to reach the need of the student. And now this is something that I would like to share with you, that we have to think very well of the real purpose of the assignments. I want the students to really learn what I'm trying to teach, or I just want the students to do this homework for a grade. That is something that is gonna make us think if the real purpose of the assignments within the virtual scenario teaching really works or not. Okay, what about another question for you? Student learning styles. Do you know how many student learning styles we can guarantee or we can recognize in these virtual scenarios now that we are facing COVID-19 time? Do you know how many learning styles probably we can see? Oh, through this vision that I have from the behavior of the students in virtual scenarios, I just can guarantee that with this activity, it could really work. Functionality and interaction. Or with this activity, no, it didn't do anything for me. Okay, how many do you think learning styles we can consider in virtual scenarios teaching for functional and interaction in language teaching, of course? Any idea maybe? Okay, I'm not getting what I need, but I'm going to help you anyways. Auditory learning styles, cultural, okay, that really works. Thank you, Laura, for participating. Auditory learning style, visual learning style, and kinesthetic learning style. You just can be wow of how interaction you just can gain if you just orient your activities that you prepare in the classroom towards those learning styles. There are students that they really don't like participating in class, but they really work on videos activities, on podcast activities. They really like to listen to your explanation when it's valuable. What about those students that they really like to cooperate by participating, talking, working, explaining? That is the kinesthetic learning style. So I have to take the advantage of that specific public, that specific audience that I have with that specific learning style to take the most advantage in the class to enhance what I really want to show. And what I really want to show in my class is functionality and interaction with the students. And that the activities and the time management and the training tools, they are going to help me for that purpose. So I have to train myself just to prepare what other activities and what other applications are out there, because internet and Google, it has so much to offer. And it's our missions as tutor and as professor that we really want to teach with a real purpose, just to be a little bit closer with the student learning need in virtual scenarios. Okay, well, now, do you really try? I have another question for you for participation in the chat. Do you really try with affective and emotional follow-up? What is it to you? What do you understand for affective and emotional follow-up? And let's see probably if we agree on the same page. Yeah, Barbara Pinzon says, I have students who like to speak in class and others to like writing by chat. And that's actually, we need to divide the group to just plan very well the activities that we want to reach. And that's how, with the benefit of the different applications and the different activities with the time management and the two training tools that we applied within the class, that's how we create functionality and interaction within class. There are so many applications, especially when we're teaching language, there are so many applications that we can use not only for talking, but for writing, for reading. Even though you can be impressed if I tell you that sometimes I use TikTok, you can be wow with all the talent that you just can discover within the class. Okay, and it's hard. It's something that we really need to work on And it's our responsibility, and consistency is what is going to show that we are really going through it well. Affecting and emotional follow-up. How many times do you think that within your virtual classrooms, your students activate the camera just to talk or just to be there and show that they are paying attention to you? Is that really happening in your classes? Is a yes or a no? Let me read you. So, yeah, it's kind of difficult. No, it doesn't usually happen, right? Okay, let me read you. Let me read you. Do you think that there are ways that I can have the students probably involved in sharing and open up themselves, probably sharing their way that they are learning in through activating the camera? Well, that's our mission, people. Let me tell you. For me, it's a rule in my classroom just to demand the students to have microphone activated and camera activated. It's just like you're talking from the other side with somebody that you really don't know, with somebody that you really don't have any connection with. And that's our mission, just to be effective in just the way that you're there. And that is through consistency, not because I did it the first time. It means that it really works every single time that I'm in my virtual ed scenario connecting with my students. Like I said, it's a whole combination. First, I need to work on my time management, my own time management, how I really need my class to work for me and for the students, just because of the fact, because it makes our lives easier and it makes the whole journey and the whole experience within the class more enjoyable. So I need to plan how I need to reach functionality and interaction with the students. Second, I need to train myself. I need to plan something new. I have to plan ahead those applications that are out there, and they can help me just to get through the functionality and interaction that I need with my students. I don't need to keep the students busy. I just need them to learn. So that means the assignments, they need to really have a real purpose. And I have to consider, if I have a group of students that they don't participate at all in the class, probably I can reach their attention doing other different kind of activities. And I have to incorporate all the learning styles with a real purpose in the class. Not everybody's going to behave in the same time, in the same way. And that's how I need to go through them and go with them. And probably activating camera and microphone, saying how you feel today, what you learn at the end of the class is gonna make me feel that I have an effective connection with them, a warmer attention with them, and it takes time. It's not going to be right away, but at least it's going to show yourself that with baby steps, it will improve and it will lead you to reach functionality and interactive language. I would like right now, Sandra, if you may, I would like right now to show you applications that they could really work in your class, but consider this: great time management, organization and commitment. Consider training for yourself and for your student. Consider yourself that you have to create assignment with real purpose. And when you put everything there on the march, I guarantee that it's going to really work for you. Well, what do we understand for ICTs? We think that ICTs are everything, but when I'm talking about ICTs, I'm just orienting myself to understand that they are only electronic devices and internet. But when I go to real learning knowledge technology, that is when I have to put everything that I know as a professor into practice. And then is when I'm going to discover all those applications and tools and activities that I can find on internet, and they can enrich and empower my classes in terms of functionality and interaction. Mentimeter, for example, quizzes. We just think that probably with Kahoot, we are going to root the word. But what about if the students, they just get used to Kahoot? There are other things to explore. And the thing is, with virtual scenarios, you never know what happened. You think that students, they're all the time connected, paying attention to what you really say. But at the end of the day, you don't really know if the students really participate, if the student really understand what you truly explain to them. So it's a tough decision just to see how I can measure if I'm reaching the goal of having functionality and interaction with the students. Quizzes, for example, is another and different way just to prove yourself to use a different kind of tool through competitions, and you can access to different materials from other part of the world and from other teachers as well. Puzzles, and generally, you can create materials, visual materials, infographics, and games as well, just to discover that there are other ways to teach. Flipgrid and World, for instance, that is everything related to games. You can be impressed of all the activities in terms of games that you just can create to evaluate a specific topic. And Nearpad has the combination of everything. Nearpad has quizzes, has polls, Nearpad has everything related to games as well. So it has a full combination of that, okay? So I'm sorry, Sandra, once again. Thank you. And EPT, which are the empowering and participation technology, that those are the ones that we really use. Moodle and Moodle, so everything related to learning platforms, blogs, wiki, and docs, that they are the ones that we use for assignments and probably for flipped classroom didactics in terms of a student reads and they just bring the insights and what they understood to the class. But with all this, my orientation and my piece of advice for you is to motivate you to have the time to really train yourself, not for your students, but yourself. So you enjoy the most the adventure of teaching through virtual scenarios. And that you really know you as students through the learning styles. And I guarantee that it really works. But you need time as the first thing and the most important thing of all this adventure. Well, so I think that I will pass the baton to Jennifer. No, to Sandra. Okay, Sandra.
So good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Well, as you have already heard, Jennifer and Matthias and Kelly, we've just covered most of what this whole internationalization process actually means. And my question right now is, like, what do you consider is the curriculum, right? Because some of the times we think that internationalization is just based on some specific aspects, and some other people think that it is more general. And, you know, like, we have many different ideas, right? So I don't know if you know how to use the blue hand to raise your hand, or if you just can show your thumbs up or just clap. I don't know, any of the tools that Zoom has. And I would like just to ask you some yes/no questions, right? My first question is internationalization all about inbound and outbound mobilities? What do you think? If you think that it is just about mobilities, raise your hand or just show your thumbs or do something about that. Just reactions. I just want some reactions. Well, it's good. I don't have many hands up. It means that actually you think that it is way beyond just mobilities, right? My second question is, does everybody have to do internationalization? Yes. If you think that yes, actually everybody needs to be doing internationalization, can you please raise your hand, write yes in the chat, or show thumbs up, something, I don't know. You can react somehow. There are many possibilities of reaction here. If nobody is raising hands and nobody is actually typing anything on the chat, I will say that many of you might not think internationalization, it's related to everybody, right? So you might think that actually internationalization can be just focused on only one group or one person, right? I saw that some people actually did something with their hands, which is good. So you might think about it in a different way. And I have my last question. Well, my last questions. Is internationalization the responsibility just of the internationalization office, or just the internationalization director or the internationalization coordinator? So any reactions? Well, no reactions. So you might be really close to what we're going to share then, which is really good. Barbara, thank you for sharing. Oh, well, you were sharing about previous ones, I'm sorry. So, well, fantastic. Then I have a final question. Who should be involved in the internationalization policies, strategies, and goals? And I have three options: the internationalization director, a specific team, or everybody. Could you please type your question in the chat? I would love to listen or to read what you think about that. And I'm going to repeat the question. Who should be involved in the internationalization policies, strategies, and goals? The internationalization director, a specific team, or everybody? So Barbara is pretty emphatic about her point of view. So actually she thinks that everybody. And I wonder what the other people think about it, because it will be very interesting to know your point of view, right? So well, as you can see right now, I'm sharing with you a graph, right? A picture. Most of you, and actually I also belong to a hierarchical organization. What does it mean? That we have one person that influences the others, right? And we have some directors who are in charge of some other people and so on. So my question is, what type of influence do you have in the different people or the different staff that makes part of your organization? If you are the director or coordinator of internationalization, what you say, the ideas, the policies, do they have some influence from you or not at all? Because actually that affects a lot. Because if you are just working in your office, making people going and coming, that's one thing. But actually, if your ideas can go through the different statements of the organization, you can reach more than that, right? And what I want to focus on today is basically what and how this type of influence can affect and get people involved in the different institutions you belong to. For example, if you take a look at your institutional development plan, you're gonna see that most of the requirements ask for the number of professors getting involved in the strategies or whatever, number of professors and students with a very good proficiency in English or different languages, the number of professors getting involved in another thing, the number of researchers or investigators getting into the strategies, right? So actually your institutional development plan is not asking you, director of internationalization, to do everything, but actually your IDP is asking you to get people involved so all the goals that were established can be reached. Keeping in mind the purposes, strategies, and everything that you want to achieve. In that order of ideas, I would like to share what we consider it's really important in Universidad Católica de Manizales. Basically, what we have in here is this little picture you can see in the bottom of the screen. Basically, what I have in here is that for Universidad Católica de Manizales, internationalization, it's a project. And as a project, we have beyond director of internationalization, we have a project manager. So this project manager basically has found 4 important lines in the internationalization policy and project, right? Which are higher and holistic education with international purposes, development and improvement of foreign language, internationalization of the curriculum, and international cooperation. So based on these 4 lines, actually in here, we have, let's say, 4 champions, as you already know, who are actually helping this process to go through the whole university. As you can see below, we see in blue a workforce pool. It makes basically the rest of the staff. As you have already seen, champions cannot do everything on their own because it turns very difficult and responsibility is huge. So what we're doing actually is sharing with all the people, with the whole university, what this strategy is, what the purposes are, so everybody actually can understand why we're doing it and what the goal is in the end. So what happens with these champions? We have these 4 people basically understanding this. Stephanie Doscher last, I think it was the second session, mentioned that it is very important to start realizing that 1 + 1 doesn't make 2. I'm sorry, it doesn't make 2. It actually equals 3, because your idea and my idea ends up being like in something much bigger and with a lot of more influence. And for example, I have in here the experience with one of our advertising professors. She is a researcher, and she has found in these different strategies a lot of opportunities for her to develop and go deeper into the processes, in the research processes, but also in her teaching possibilities and resources. Unfortunately, as I said before, champions cannot do everything. And I ask you, how many champions can you identify in your institution? And a second question, will these champions will be there forever? What happens if your champion just gets a better job tomorrow? So what's going to happen with the processes? What's going to happen with everything? That's why we consider that beyond champions, we actually need to start focusing in the rest of the institution. And we have, you already know them, the advocates and the latent champions and advocates. So basically what we're just trying to think about is just to teach them how to do things, because there are people who want to do things, they're willing to go for it, but they don't know how to do it. You know, the champion listens to an idea and just the person goes for it. And if the person doesn't know how to do it, he or she will find a way. But with the advocates and with the latent advocates and champions, they need to go through a process. So we have what we have called the 3 E's: engage, experience, and empower. What do we mean by that? Basically that we just show them how these different strategies work. We worked through 2 different lines regarding these specific things. And we work with multicultural, interactive global learning strategies, which are basically based on virtual strategies that can actually connect different people, but can also foster the collaboration among participants. So we also have, as Matthias mentioned before, CLIL and EMI, which can actually help us to strengthen the foreign language in our institution. So how do we engage them? We allow them to participate in our classes, in the languages classes, for example, and they can participate in COIL, eTandem, virtual conferencing, and they, as learners, can learn about whatever we're just teaching them. Then we just prepared training processes. We had that training last summer. We just taught them how to do different things, and we allow them also to have the experience as learners, but with the purpose of teaching. Then what we did is that we went step by step and showed them the path they could use with their students also. Then basically we just allow them, we provide different spaces and opportunities for them to discover the benefits by themselves. Benefits for them as teachers, but also benefits for students. Because as I mentioned before, they were placed in the position, in the seat of the learner. So they could actually realize how much the students could learn from the different strategies we were sharing with them. We got many great comments from them. Even yesterday, I had the possibility to talk to a professor who was teaching an activity in English, and she felt so comfortable and like easygoing with the activity she prepared that she wants to repeat these same activities with her students. So basically, this just gets them to the point in which they can choose the strategies and activities they feel more confident with. And of course, they can set their personal goals. It is very different when you show your staff, when you show professors, when you show researchers, and when you show academics in general, different possibilities, and you show them how to do them. And then you ask them to get involved in the ones they feel more comfortable with. I can bet that they can go further than you even imagine, because it fosters also creativity and innovation. Usually when you get stick to one protocol that cannot move forward, it's difficult, right? And when you already know how it is to work with, for example, COIL using Zoom, Tandem, Skype, if you know the differences in those different platforms, you already know how to teach and what to teach to your staff getting involved in these activities. So basically that's in general what we have worked through these different strategies and possibilities. And as you already listened to, we moved from the very first thing, or the biggest, or the top of this whole thing, which are the policies. Then we moved through different strategies, and now we're just reaching to that point, how to get your professors involved in the whole process. So I will invite you to listen to some of the conclusions. So if you will help me, that would be really good.
Sandra,
Sorry.
I first want to ask whether I am the only one with the slide frozen, because I couldn't see that what you were talking about, and I want to reframe a little bit before the conclusions. So can you please share the next slide? So very important from what Sandra was saying is that we understand that we have different moments in the interaction with professors and the academics. And that's why Sandra was telling us that we call it the engage, the experience, and empower. And basically, it's because we know that with champions, we can pilot many different projects and new ideas come up. And but also there are some others who may be willing to, but they need to learn how to do it. And that's why we have those words, teach me and I will do it. And even there are some skeptic, when they see that this actually works, they become latent champions or latent advocates, because you know, like everybody has an idea, not necessarily that everybody involves in everything in internationalization, but this is definitely a teamwork, collaborative, participatory process, and it's creative, and it's as creative as you can imagine. And something that we have realized, which we can go to the next slide, Sandra, and something, Sandra, can you go to the next slide? And something, some of the insights that we have found out is that, yes, we start with certain champions, but with the champions we pilot, we learn with them, and then we teach others through the champions, and we also learn. And that's why, and also with those advocates, and not every professor or academic is championing every single aspect of internationalization. So it is very important also to keep an eye, a look at those pearls, at those people who have something to say about internationalization, who might not know that they are doing actual international education. But you, as a, let's say, as a manager, as an academic, as a director, when you recognize those things, it's very interesting how these professors become valuable partners, valuable peers for internationalization of the curriculum. And then when we started sharing these practices, we have done colloquiums, we have done certain training courses, we have done training in multicultural, interactive, global learning, which is our approach in which we integrate technology, global learning, learning outcomes, and also these languages as well, but not necessarily, but to provide this multiculturalism. And they have decided, because it emerged from our academics, to construct communities of practice along with professional development, so that those have become our key enablers for innovation in international education. When they listen to practices from their peers and they grab certain ideas, or they join together for different projects. For instance, we know that communication skills are very important, and we say, oh, well, we have a professor in the humanities department, and we have one in the environmental engineering department, and they have, let's say, this module of Laudato Si, which is our common house for environmental sustainability, and they work together with two different professors with the same learning, with some learning goals very similar in the same institution, but also sometimes when we do it, for example, through projects with COIL. In Multicultural Interactive Global Learning, we have embedded COIL, but we know that COIL is not the only, it is one very important thing, but depending on the possibilities, capabilities, capital, human capital, relationship capital that the professor has. So we have mapped different possibilities, and especially with them, because when we build with them, when we don't tell them what to do, but when we both, or the team designs what to do, processes become much higher and better in international education. And that's why in here our approach is that curriculum management, and especially the internationalization of the curriculum, requires that we manage, that we integrate top-down and bottom-up approaches, which is basically our, let's say, thesis statement in this presentation. that really everybody has a role, but not at the same level, not at the same time. Not everybody, this should be also, this is identity based also in the institution, and academics, directors, and everybody plays a different role depending on whether they have some top-down roles or bottom-up approaches. But curriculum is based on practices. It's not based on discourse. It's not based on speech. It's also based on the teaching practices in the classroom, and that information base help us also to provide different professional development opportunities, project management, because what we believe is that when you develop institutional capacities, opportunities for collaboration are going to happen naturally or with a flow. All right. So these are our main insights in this presentation, and I would like to address some question that somebody asked before, and how do we implement a CLIL in higher education? Sandra, I think that you can address this of the way we have done it with professors. And in the meantime, we invite you all to write down also the questions that you may have for our panel.
Well, basically what I'm going to share is what happened last summer. And by last summer, I mean last June, July. We had a group of professors with us. There were like 35 professors, which were well divided, right? And let's say that what we did with them was basically to help them go through different steps of planning and what the purposes of the planning actually were. Then we have 3 weeks of training in which they went through CLIL strategies, EMI strategies, and actually another one which we call ESA, which is basically engage, study, and activate. And through them, we just established the different moments in the class, so they could actually realize what they needed for the lessons, independently of the topic they were teaching. We also have them planning different activities based on skills, based on the content they were going to teach, and of course on what they wanted to achieve. We worked also around learning objectives and little about assessment and how to evaluate everything they were working through. So we also combined those sessions with some of the multicultural, interactive, global learning strategies as a complement of the whole program we have planned for them.
What was very interesting about these professors participating in our professional development in CLIL is that they said that they thought that those strategies weren't only important for them to implement in the foreign language, but they were also in the general didactics. Many of them are not bachelors in education. They don't have an educational background, so they found also that it's very important to implement these sort of didactics, and planning are also important for them, for their professional development in general education, for their own disciplines. We want to invite you to activate your microphone to write any other questions, and in the chat. We still have a couple of minutes. We have some minutes for one more question.
In the meantime, Matthias, I would like to share with the audience here. I just post on the chat probably some useful applications that you can use in class besides the one that I showed on the slide. So I think that if you have a look at it, I think look at those of them. I think that probably you can have great benefits to use them in your classes. So just to keep in mind.
Yeah, Barbara is asking some strategies to work internationalization of the curriculum. And I want to address that question. We have especially 3 lines, and 3 lines is compound of different strategies. And in one of the lines is obviously the foreign languages, in which we incorporate, and I know that Ariandina also does it, which is incorporating, integrating reading comprehension to the specific disciplines, and at different levels. If it is in the first year, second year, third year, and fourth year, it changes. Also with the accompaniment, let's say, of the fellowship of professors from the language department. We integrate content, and we have also implemented English as a medium of instruction in our courses. That is with the foreign language aspect. Regarding technology, in the multicultural interactive global learning, we have taught professors how to use those different technology tools. Kelly told us, gave us great resource. For example, Bukaru that she's mentioning in there is awesome to provide interaction with the students. We realized that also MOOCs are very important to bring in the international dimension into a specific discipline. So our professors start with that, with the integration of MOOCs to the international dimension, but we pay attention to what is the human capital, the relation capital that the professor already has with other institutions or through the institution, so that we develop different strategies for virtual exchange, for COIL, for joint classes, for video conferencing. Actually, professors come up with so much more than what we are sharing in here. Even, for example, the United Nations model, that is one example that we have in environmental engineering. So students play different roles regarding certain, let's say, environmental issue. For instance, a couple of years ago, we had this issue with the sovereignty of the sea in San Andres in Colombia with Nicaragua, and they addressed this issue from different perspectives, taking different roles, and also those who represented other countries, like in French, Portuguese, or English-speaking countries, they also play that role. And that is very important also to provide global learning in the classroom. Those are some of the strategies. We do it also with multiculturalism, with certain professors. With the most important thing is that you have clear in your mind and in the curriculum what your purposes are, what competencies you are looking for, because that is the way to integrate. So it's not an extra activity. It's not, it must be integrated with the curriculum. If it doesn't have a purpose, students are going to resist, professors are going to resist, and everybody is just going to be thinking that it's just to be busy. Julia, I will address these questions to another. In the process of internationalization of the curriculum, what can we do if we find resistance from the faculty? I answered the previous one, so I want to address these questions to somebody else if you want.
Can I respond that one?
You and Jennifer?
Go ahead.
Sandra and Jennifer.
Okay, go ahead, Sandra.
Okay. Well, basically, what I found with the resistance is that when you resist something is because you have not clear what the purpose is for what you're doing. There are two different lines in here. First one is when you are pushed and when you're obliged to do something. You know, when it goes in terms of policies or new ideas, they will just, okay, we have this new idea, let's do it. So it's more like, because of everybody else is doing it, that sometimes it is acquired in our institutions. So in those terms, and I'm speaking here as a professor, in those terms, there's always resistance, because as a professor, you have many things to do. So new things are really good when they make sense for you and your role. So I think the first thing you should ask yourself, and actually we should ask ourselves, is what's the purpose of the activity that I am doing? If I share one of these strategies with my professors, with my peers, it's basically because I had already understand the benefits and the purposes that these different strategies have for my classes. So if I find that, I can just not only do them, but look for more creative and innovative ways to doing them. So that will be my answer to that. I don't know, Jennifer wants to speak.
Well, basically you two said everything I was gonna say. Basically is that, I mean, they're going to resist if they don't find a clear objective or how it is connected to the discipline itself. If they do it, and it has happened in Ariandina, if they do it just because they have to do it, because, I don't know, we call it here mini lessons. So if no, I do it because I have to report to the direction of the program that I did it. But if they do it as part of the process of the course they're teaching, for example, include the I don't know, English activity or reading activity in one of the units of the program, in which it is the purpose of reading that specific text is because it is an important academic that talks about this specific topic, then it would make sense for not only for professors, but also for students. If they just do it, no, out of the blue, one day, 1 week, they say, no, just let's do it because I have to do this. So we have to do it in English, and we do, I don't know, una sopa de letras, a word search. They're not doing it because they believe in it, but because they have to. So I think that's the most important thing, like to motivate them to link whatever they're doing with the discipline itself, the topic they're teaching, or the subject they're teaching. I think that's the key.
Matias, I'd like to contribute to Maria Julia question. It has happened in Ariandina too, and I think that from the language department in the different cities Ariandina has its headquarters, I think that one great solution of this affection, of this action that happened related to the resistance is just show. The university policy supports the academic processes and how the university is guiding the whole thing in terms of academic oriented from the professors, and of course the support from the departments and the faculties, and put it into action through the curriculum and the action in the classroom. But I think if there is certain resistance with this kind of action, I think that the best way is to show. It has happened in Ariandina and with different events, with different collaboration and cooperation from the students, and being interactive as well. I think this is my favorite word, but being interactive with the community, with the academic community, and showing that it really matters, and it really shows that the students, they take the most benefit of all the activities that it helps to internationalization, international mobility, and of course the competences and the advantages that they have just to put into practice languages, English, CLIO, any other dynamics that we as professors want to teach, want to orient in the class, and the best product that is what the students show. I think that is the best thing to do. We have resistance, and I think that the best thing is show your proof that what you do really works. I think that that would be my biggest ideas to share, because I see that it has happened. I think that this is the real purpose, how it really worked, and how we got the community involved in these kind of processes to proceed with the internationalization of the curriculum.
Another thing is basically what Matias, and I know, I think what Sandra was saying it, is also that, I mean, we cannot sell a romantic story of internationalization of the curriculum, because it is not like that. And we know that, like, the context we have in each of the universities, first of all. Second of all, I think it's very important to have it as a project, and to look at languages as, and in fact, all the activities that they have internationalization of the curriculum, especially because most of the academics see internationalization as mobility. It's basically like that. So I think that will be like the first step, is like to change the mind, and to let them know that that's not the only way of doing internationalization, that internationalization of the curriculum is another way to get to have globalized citizens and minds in our students. So yeah, I guess that's the first thing to do, like to have an actual project, and not activities and things that are isolated and not working within a specific objective.
Thank you, Jennifer, Kelly, and Sandra. Thank you all for participating. At the Universidad Católica de Manizales, Sandra explained, we have 3 processes: engage, talk to professors, involve them. Experience, so what Kelly said, show. So when they also experience this, when they have this experiential learning, they realize from the student's point of view also what possibilities they can have, and empower, because many times you academics do many very valuable things and you don't know that they are valuable, and you need somebody to support you, to recognize and to empower you as well, because there's so much more that you can do. Professors are magic. Like, to us, professors are the magicians of internationalization of the curriculum, because professors are the one who have a direct relationship to most of the students. That's why it's critical, that role. We really thank you so much for participating in this session. And we want to to invite you to our sessions in the afternoon at 2 p.m., our workshops. At 4 as well, we have different sessions. And at 6, we're going to have our closure for LACHEC 2020. We hope that you can have a good rest, that you have a nice lunch, and that hopefully you have great energy for this afternoon finishing of LACHEC. Thank you very much. Jennifer, Kelly, Sandra, thank you so much for your participation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
to
people,
all
for
the
supporting
attendees.
us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.